Monday, took out the trash, I vacuumed, baked the bread, walked the ferrets, and I did the dishes. Oh, hey there, partner. I'm glad you're here. I have a provocative question to ask you. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were just doing too much? I remember I was frustrated one time with my roommate because I felt like I was just doing all of the chores. So one week I sat down and I made a list, like this one. So Monday, I took out the trash. Tuesday, I vacuumed the house. Wednesday, I baked the bread. Thursday, I took the ferrets out on a walk. And Friday, as I'm doing the dishes, he comes home, flops down on the couch, and plays Call of Duty for 3 hours straight and doesn't even ask for help.
Headshot! Oh, I do love me a frosted mini-wheat.
And I remember thinking to myself, you lazy sack of potatoes. Partner, is this relationship doomed? How can I possibly be satisfied when I'm constantly feeling like I'm doing more than my fair share? So we've all been part of truly one-sided relationships before. Remember back in school when you had that group assignment and you basically wrote the entire paper yourself and then you just handed over to your teammates who signed the bottom so no one got docked for participation points? Yeah, but other relationships may only feel one-sided because of a
Bum, bum, bum. Cognitive bias.
That's right. And understanding this bias can repair or even save important business relationships, valuable friendships, or even marriage itself. But before we can navigate to this place of clarity, I think first we need to start by laying some groundwork and talking about, what is this thing? Oh yeah, it's a map. How quaint. So once upon a time, when I was living in LA, I was given an assignment to draw a map of the state of California. And as you can see, I drew a big sock with my favorite beach cities, LA, San Diego, and Santa Barbara along the bottom, and San Francisco and Sacramento at the top. And when you compare it to reality, you can see that it's just massively distorted. Right? Those cities that I'm familiar with seem to kind of expand and spread out to fill the whole of the state. Whereas the cities I was ignorant of or only vaguely familiar with took up little to no space at all. Right? There's about 20% of the state near the top that may as well not even exist in my mind. Furthermore, all the other students in the class, their maps showed a similar pattern. The area in and around LA was magnified, while everything else outside of that seemed to contract. It's almost as if our brains had added a fisheye filter onto reality, with LA as the epicenter. Right, typical Hollywood snobs. Am I right, partner? No, I'm wrong, actually. This effect is universal. And if my good friend Danny Kahneman were here, he'd probably say this is a great example of the availability bias, or a bias to information that is available to us. In other words, the maps that we generate are going to be based solely on the landmarks and the cities that we can remember, which are always the more familiar ones, right? Cities that we don't know so much about or that we just couldn't think of in that moment, like Fresno or Redding, won't factor into our calculation. Out of sight, out of mind. So I know exactly how long it takes to get from LA to Santa Barbara. I've done that drive, and I've seen all of the stuff in between. There's a lot of it. I know there's something up north, but I'm mainly just familiar with San Francisco. So the availability bias causes us to distort our internal maps not only of local geography, but our internal maps of everything, of reality itself. And hey, that's where relationships live, right? Well, maybe not my imaginary friendship with Danny Kahneman. In 1979, researchers wanted to see if they could identify similar kinds of distortions in our views of our relationships. So they got a bunch of married couples together and asked them to self-assess their performance on shared duties. So they might ask them things like, how much do you contribute to taking out the garbage? Give me a percentage. Right? How much do you contribute to tidying up the house? Or how much do you contribute to initiating social engagements? If people are generally good at these self-assessments, you'd expect that the combined assessments from both people would never exceed 100%, right? What the researchers found was that the combined percentages consistently exceeded 100%, leading to a contradiction, right? Because we can't all be taking out the trash 60% of the time. What explains this contradiction? Yeah, the availability bias. So, because we are stuck in these stupid bodies of ours, we can't help but notice every single contribution that we make and the heroic extent of that effort. Right? We make all of these mental notes every time we do something admirable. The question is, do we do a symmetrical service for our partner? No, right? That's impossible. Unless we go full-on stalker mode and watch them all day long like a dingo watches a human baby. Partner, let's get serious. This availability bias is universal. All of us, walk around viewing the world through fish eyes.
And that's a double-edged sword because that means that we're probably right to feel like we're not being appreciated
For everything we do. But it also means that we're not appreciating other people. Could this bias explain why all of us feel that we deserve more money for doing the same job as the people next to us? Or why we constantly feel like whatever we're doing is more important than what our teammates are doing? This thought terrifies me. Right? Not the idea that I might be living in a society full of narcissists. I mean, all of us knew that was the case, right? The idea that I might be one of them. And how do you fix this asymmetry when it's built into the perceptual systems of each and every one of us? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple, actually. Studies show that we can combat this bias simply by gathering more information. So what happened with that roommate situation I was telling you about? Well, one weekend, I remember I had gone away and I'd come to the soft conclusion that, you know what, I need to get a new roommate. They're just not doing enough for the relationship. And on the ride back, I was on the plane and I was reading this book. And when I read about that marriage study that I was telling you about, I broke down in tears. Because I knew it was true. I knew that I had routinely been undervaluing the contributions of that roommate. And furthermore, the contributions of every single person in every single one of my relationships throughout my entire life. Isn't that sad? And learning about this bias motivated me to seek out more information about what he was doing exactly when I was just too busy to notice. And talking about it improved our relationship. So partner, I have no idea what your situation is like. Maybe you are part of a really unbalanced, asymmetrical, bad relationship that you should get out of. But if you're thinking about ending this relationship because you just feel like you're doing too much, realize that you will likely always feel like you are doing too much, no matter who you get to replace that person. So you'd better communicate about it first. before you end a perfectly healthy relationship. And I realized that talking about our relationships is like going to get a prostate exam, right? It's uncomfortable. We have to probe all of these sensitive issues, and no one wants to do that, right? But we come out of the process better. We learn more about ourselves. And that's the joy of thinking, partner. Learning about all of these unconscious biases that we harbor, recognizing these patterns of behavior, and committing to changing them. Can you imagine living in a society where this availability bias is just common knowledge? And each and every one of us went out and made an extra commitment every single day to noticing what other people around us are doing and giving them credit for their fair share of the work. I had a lot of fun talking to you today, partner. I'll see you next time on The Joy of Thinking.
Headshot! Oh, that's not deserving of a frosted mini-wheat. Nothing is. Am I right, my good man? Am I right?